what do you see in his game, his, USC Lincoln Riley offense that translate to the Bears?
He's a killer from the pocket. I am so impressed with his arm strength. He's got an impressive arm. I think he's very accurate. But you watch him actually operate from the pocket, and he's a lot more deliberate with his footwork, and he plays with more anticipation. And I just, in terms of thinking of Justin Fields, I think we saw a lot the last 2 years of Fields would kind of look a little lackadaisical, dropping back in the pocket, not firing the ball, not having maybe as quick of a release as he should. Williams, though, his release is just so freaking quick. He can make any throw from pretty much any position. His body can, twerk and contort any sort of way. I mean, it's a lazy comparison is Patrick Mahomes, but he does have some of those characteristics where, you think he's being flush left. He can contort his body and make an accurate throw downfield with enough zip and velocity to actually get there and get past defenders. And he's also really mobile. He's not Justin Fields speed fast. I mean, not many people are, but he's quick enough to be able to buy time in the pocket, scramble, evade pressure, and still keep his eyes downfield to make a play. And that's what's most important. You see a lot of these guys, they just tuck and run once their first read is over. Williams continues to try and find the guy downfield to make a play and buy time as best as possible. And that's truly what needs to happen. We saw a lot what Justin Fields can do rushing ability, but there is a ceiling to that, especially when defenses catch on. And when you have to actually have somebody beat you from the pocket, Caleb Williams can be that guy. And I know a lot of people want to look back at his tape in 2023 where things just weren't going as well. The anticipation maybe wasn't as good as it was in 2022 and 2021 with Oklahoma. But part of the reason is that he lost a lot of guys. He lost his top weapon in Jordan Addison. Brendan Rice did pretty decent, but he's not the greatest college wide receiver, obviously. So when you have limitations like that, then you are kind of forced to play hero ball, especially when you know your defense is pretty much guaranteed to give up 40 points a game. So that part needs to be a little bit coached out of him. And when the Bears get him and Shane Waldron starts working with them, he needs to dial that back and say, play within the system. But I believe he can because he's shown it in the past. So he's just got elite characteristics and attributes that I'm really excited to see how they translate to the pro level.
There is something to say about how his skills translate to the NFL because I watched his tape a few weeks ago. It was one of those YouTube clips, 10 minutes, get excited for Fields. He looks great. He looks absolutely amazing. But a lot of the wide receivers were open. The defense, he had mismatches all over. He had great protection. I'm worried about another prospect who looks really good with a great offense and Lincoln Riley, but doesn't translate to the NFL. JJ, I could see JJ being really good, right? He translates to the NFL perfectly. Are you kind of worried that Caleb Williams, it was so easy for him in college, and he had so many weapons, and he had so much space, and he was playing, half asleep. Are you worried that maybe doesn't translate to the NFL?
No, I'm not worried about that per se. I do think it's an interesting point that, and I think all quarterbacks, no matter if you play in a pro offense, a spread offense, an air raid, whatever, you do have to learn how to play at the pro level because guys are bigger, guys are faster, things are a lot tighter, and things are not as open as they should be. College open and NFL open are just not the same thing. So everybody needs to go through that, and so I'm just hoping that, and I have faith that the Bears coaches with Shane Waldron, Thomas Brown, Kerry Joseph, all of these guys can, work with him to get to that point and say, all right, you've done college open. Now let's make sure that quick passing and that quick release that we saw continues at the pro level, and don't be afraid to let it go because guys can get gun shy, and then that's when the sacks happen, and then you start seeing ghosts, and it just it piles on one another. So for Williams specifically, I'm not too worried about it because he does show that anticipation, and I think he's shown that anticipation that other guys like Fields and other quarterbacks before him didn't necessarily do. But coaching does play a big part of that. So, Bears have now with the coaches. And I do believe those coaches were hired knowing that Williams was going to be the guy. So the Bears wanted to make sure they had the right people in place